The Morrowind modding scene is beyond mind-blowing. Not only is there Tamriel Rebuilt, which is a project that's been fleshing out Morrowind's mainland since before the release of Morrowind, there's also their sister endeavor, Project Tamriel, and they've recently finished their first big release for the province of Cyrodiil, the Abyssinian Shore, or the Abessian Shore. I'm not sure. The Gold Coast, the city of Anvil, the island of Stirk, and their surrounding areas. With several new factions and around 160 new quests, it wouldn't be feasible for me to cover everything in a single video, so instead, we'll focus on the faction I find to be the most interesting, the Itinerant Priests, a loosely affiliated group of priests, pilgrims, sages, monks, general holy folk, who travel the world completing spiritually fulfilling tasks. Sounds ideal for a humble monk looking to pass the time. You may be wondering why Chipmunk is level 1 if he's already become the Nerevarine, the Archmage of Cyrodiil's Mages Guild, and caused the warp in the west. He's wondering that too. Anyway, meta-narrative aside, before shoving off for Cyrodiil, I grabbed some alchemy tools and bought Divine Intervention from Onius Autras. We'll stay in Cyrodiil for the rest of the video, I just wanted to get a couple basic things out of the way. That is, I didn't know where to find these things over there, so we're just gonna grab them where I know they are. Getting to Anvil is easy. Take a Silt Strata to Vivek, sail to Ebonheart, and talk to Titus Coralex, an East Empire Company member who's willing to rescue us from this ash-blasted province. His words, not mine, but he's not wrong. And we're here, in the land of tanking frame rates. It's a Morrowind thing, not a mod thing. I mean, it's because of the mod, but it's not the mod maker's fault, it's just the nature of the beast. OpenMW is incredibly stable, but big cities are tough. I think it has to do with the number of actors within a single cell. It's probably more complicated than that, but point is, it can't be helped. I say tanking, but the frame rate never drops below 30, so it's not that bad. I'm just spoiled. I like 60 frames per second. It's a nice healthy medium. Also, my monitors are 60 Hz, so I don't need it any higher than that. Being itinerant, the itinerant priests don't have a guild hall. They don't even have an official hierarchy. There is a rank system, but it's mostly ceremonial. So where do we go to get quests? Well, Anvil does have several temples, the biggest one being the Temple of Dibella Aesthetica. Chipmunk has found his home. Artistic nipples are probably fine, but I ain't risking it. Sorry, Dibella. We gotta censor you. Ooh. As it happens, there's a schism in the church, two factions with differing interpretations of Dibella. There's the ascetics and the hedonists. The former are boring dorks, the latter are Chipmunk's people. But they're not part of the itinerant priests, so getting wrapped up in their politics isn't today's matter of interest. Instead, we ask around the temple to glean some information about one of the itinerant priests, but we don't learn much. I'm sure there's a breadcrumb somewhere that leads you to one of them, but I couldn't find it. Fortunately, I know where we can find one because, even though UESP hasn't updated with this mod's information just yet, there are some design documents we can pull data from. The first priest we'll visit isn't in Anvil, so we'll do a bit of shopping before leaving the city. In the past, Chipmunk only relied on his fists to get the job done, but this time around, we'll play with staves a bit. When an enemy is knocked down, they're easier to hit and they take more damage, and since staves are really fast, it's quick to switch to them from bare hands, allowing us to get several hits in before the enemy stands back up. It seems appropriate, hand-to-hand, bow staves, it's a monk, cool. A map is a good idea too. Foscus Faxis here sells both a regional map and a map of Anvil. Yeah, there's the inventory map, but these ones that he sells are a bit more detailed. And to assuage any concerns, we buy a bunch of bread from this innkeeper, enough to make a healthy amount of fatigue potions. Hand-to-hand doesn't consume a ton of fatigue, but I like running and hopping between fights, so potions are a good idea. You happy? This mod also adds several new kinds of Colovian fur helms and Colovian fur for different parts of your body. Unfortunately, there's no Colovian fur merkin. Othasare sells a pair of yellow gloves to match the helm. Anvil, unsurprisingly, has its own Mages Guild with its very own guild guides. Their enchanter also sells both an Amulet of Recall and an Amulet of Mark. Very convenient. Olash is an Imga, the gorilla version of Khajiit. They are in the official lore. There are a ton of beast races in this game, and in most games we only ever see one fur stock of Khajiit and one type of Argonian. But something you'll notice with these Project Tamriel and Project Tamriel adjacent projects is that they enjoy implementing lore-only stuff. Stuff that gets talked about but was never really seen, or stuff from less played installments of the Elder Scrolls, like creatures from Battlespire, or maybe Shadow Keys, stuff like that. Some of the Daedra in Tamriel Rebuilt are nightmares, and there's actually a nightmare that shows up in Anvil, and we'll see him later, and I hate him. This guild guide looks like a Bosmer, but she's actually a Khajiit, an Omaze Khajiit, a Khajiit born when Masser is new and Secunda is full. This is also the Khajiit version you play as in Arena. The first stock thing is a retroactive explanation for why every game has a different playable Khajiit. A retcon, technically, but it's cool, so it's fine. The Crossing Inn in Brenner Cross, just an inn in Oblivion, awaits our first itinerant priest, Alsia Juvanus. She tells us about the Order and their virtues, and gives us a rundown of the rules. Live virtuously, be charitable, follow your heart, mind, and soul, and work toward becoming a person you would be proud to be. Also, don't steal shit from other members. Alsia is a bit lost, spiritually speaking. She's looking to make an offering to Arche. A bit of travel and a bit of prayer might do her some good, but she needs a few things before she can head out. Salt, nightshade, and sweet wine, all of which we can buy from vendors right here in Brynacross. With the goods in hand, Alsia follows us out of Brynacross toward the shrine to Arche, and immediately you may notice something different about Cyrodiil. In Oblivion, the Gold Coast doesn't quite look like this. I wouldn't say this region is tropical, but it's certainly not temperate. It's got a savanna feel to it. You may have even noticed the palm trees back in Anvil. That's the most interesting thing about these projects. Like Project Tamriel's other mod, Skyrim, Home of the Nords, these provinces are being implemented into Morrowind, not how Bethesda ended up designing them, but how we would have imagined the regions to be at the time of Morrowind's release. Prior to Oblivion, the lore described Cyrodiil as a jungle. In Oblivion, it's not a jungle. Part of it might be a little swampy, but it ain't a jungle. So if the Abyssinian shore looks a bit off to you, it's because it is. This is pre-Lord of the Rings Cyrodiil. What the hell is this? When we arrive at the shrine, we're attacked by a trio of bandits. Because escort quests are a nightmare, and melee hitboxes are a bit weird in OpenMW 0.49, it's not easy for me to protect Alsia. Instead, we'll have her stay back while we fight these guys on our own. I'll explain what I mean about the change to the melee hitbox in a bit.
There is no escape.
Can't even flee the country to avoid these guys. It's a bit overpowered, but it feels right. I'm taking his pauldrons, pants, and his boots. No shirt, obviously, but I can't ditch the Colovian gloves. Hand-to-hand is a bit rough at low levels. You have low accuracy, of course, but your damage scales directly with your level as well. The fatigue damage you do is half your level, and once an enemy is knocked to the ground, you do something like 7% of your hand-to-hand level as health damage. And this is on a fully drawn back punch. I am running with OpenMW's native option to make strength affect hand-to-hand damage, so it gives our fists a bit more power. I'm not sure how much it affects the damage, but our strength is low right now anyway, so these fights are still a bit of a grind. Once the enemies are down though, it's just a matter of time before they're all dead. When they regenerate enough stamina to stand back up, I just punch them again, and they fall again. To make up for our lack of fist damage, we can use a staff. Monks using bow staves is thematically appropriate, methinks, and even though staves don't have a high maximum damage, they're one of the fastest weapons in the game. Combine that with the damage and accuracy boost we get from beating on fallen enemies, and even with a low level in Blunt, we make quick work of them. Also, leveling up Blunt will get us strength attribute points. I think this was the intended approach with monks. You're supposed to wrestle enemies to the ground, then go for the kill with a weapon, not punch their ass until they die, as fun as that is. Our first level, yeah, hand-to-hand levels up really quick, so these levels are going to roll in like crazy. We're going to focus on strength, intelligence, agility, and speed. We'll be doing a bit of alchemy, so the intelligence will help there, and we may need to cast Hearth Heal every now and then, so a bigger magical pool wouldn't hurt. Now that the shrine is clear of ne'er-do-wells, Alsia makes her offering, but it doesn't seem to help her. Ever since her mentor died, she's had so many questions with no one to answer them. In intrigue-generating fashion, she mentions believing someone had the answers, but they didn't. The ellipsis creates mystery. Back at the Crossing Inn, Alsia sends us on a mission that's not quite as soul-searchy. Brava Rondas, a Dunmer member of the Imperial cult, arrived from Morrowind, and she's been preaching a bit too zealously. She's only just got to town, and she's already all up in people's faces. Alsia would like us to get her to stop. Gotcha. Kill the priest. What's that? Just talk to her? Okay. Her apartment is in the Little Arenthia district of Anvil, the less affluent section of the city, home to a sizable Bosmer population. Arenthia is a major city in Valenwood, and the one nearest to Cyrodiil's southwestern border. Many Bosmer coming to Cyrodiil gravitate toward this part of Anvil. Her apartment is above the bathhouse, next to Wyn Genseric's place, who may be related to Roland Genseric, the man Ceridir, the vampire, accuses of being a vampire himself in Oblivion. I can't place it, but her model is kinda terrifying. The data files that accompany these province mods contain new faces, but this one, I think it's vanilla, but something about the eyes is just unsettling. Maybe it is part of the mod. Breva realizes she's been a bit overzealous, but she's planning a trip out to Valenwood anyway. The problem is, she took out a loan from Lucia, a local pawnbroker, and in loan shark fashion, Lucia is charging an absurd amount of interest. I feel like that would have been in the print, not even the fine print, just like on the contract, but whatever. Maybe Breva let her passions cloud her judgment, I don't know. Lucia says Breva is doing quote-unquote us savages such a service going to preach in Valenwood. Zaen, the Bosmer aspect of Zenithar, insists she repay Breva in kind. Something tells me there's a bit of animosity here. She offers to sell us the loan contract for its full value, plus a processing fee. Always with the goddamn fees, can't escape it in video games, I'm sure she'll expect a tip as well. The contract will set us back about 800 gold, which we don't actually have right now. There's probably a way to steal the contract, but the only way I see us getting through that locked door is by killing the guard. That doesn't feel very chipmunky, so we'll gather up some cash instead. Chipmunk ain't a goody two-shoes, but I feel like he wouldn't murder a guy just to save a few hundred gold. The easiest way to make gold is by alchemy. Buy a bunch of bread from an innkeeper, make fatigue potions, sell some back to the innkeeper, and sell the rest to other shopkeepers. Spending a little extra gold to increase their disposition helps too. We can even sell some stuff to Lucia to reduce the cost of the contract. As a reward for our help, Breva gives us her ghost charm, which she accidentally packed when leaving Morrowind. She has no need for superstitious trinkets anymore, and she thinks we might be able to get a bit of gold for it. It summons an ancestral ghost for 60 seconds. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but this feels symbolic. She left Morrowind, her homeland, and abandoned not only the modern Dunmer faith in the Tribunal, but also the old ways of ancestor worship. Now that Breva is leaving for Valenwood, and her proselytizing has stopped, we return to Alsia, and she confesses that she was being a bit unfair. After her mentor died, she thought she'd found someone who had all the answers, someone who was so confident in what they had to say. After she'd given him the last of her gold, he disappeared, and she had mistakenly projected her feelings onto Breva. Alsia's got some regrets. But in her never-ending journey to get answers from someone else, she asks us to do some research into a phrase her mentor had told her. Weaving a pathway to redemption through sin. As mentors are wont to do, he said the phrase would make sense when she was ready to understand it. She sends us to speak with Embrilvis and Irondus, a priest of Stendar at Fort Heath, to see if he can make heads or tails of the phrase. I hear the locals call this, horse. It takes a pet like no problem, not afraid at all. That's a great horse right there. We ask him Brilvis about the phrase, and he has no idea what it can mean, but it sounds like something Ayleid revivalists would say. He suggests we talk to Aryadora in the Bazaar of the Abyssian, where she works as an enchanter. Where is the Bazaar of the Abyssian? Is that some sprawling marketplace on the coast? Is it in Brynna Cross? House Sedek? It's an anvil. Just a building, an anvil. I might just be an idiot, but Embrilvus's phrasing made it sound like the Bazaar of the Abyssian was its own thing, not just some indoor shopping mall. I spent quite some time looking for this place. If it were up to me, I'd change his dialogue to, I met one of those revivalists at the Bazaar of the Abyssian in Anvil, but that's just me. I even went around talking to a bunch of NPCs to see if they had anything to say about this mysterious place. Of course, no one did. Why would they? It's not like random NPCs talk about Ted's Tackle Tavern down at the marina. Anyway, we arrive at the bazaar and encounter this nightmarish little gremlin. I hate it, and I want it to have always been dead. This is what I was talking about. It's probably from Battlespire, or maybe it's from Redguard. That's why nobody plays Redguard. Aryadora is upstairs, understandably. The furthest you can get away from that little freak. She says the phrase only sounds theological when translated out of Ayleid, but it's actually metaphysical. Do you know what that means? Yeah, me either. But there's a cavern east of the Ayleid ruins of Garlus Agia called Lost Stars Hollow, where one of her colleagues found a text fragment similar to Alsia's perplexing phrase. It's time to visit our first Ayleid ruin, but Morrowind style. Uh-oh, Cyrodiil's got gobos. Recall, Morrowind and Oblivion both take place within a decade of each other. So the domesticated goblin fiasco of 3E102 had already created a healthy population of goblins in Cyrodiil. Yes, these mods exist in a parallel continuity to the official canon, but my nonsensical histories are also non-canon, meaning it's non-canon to all continuities, making them valid additions to everyone's continuity. It's as valid to canonical Elder Scrolls as it is to non-canonical Elder Scrolls. The law may protect your intellectual properties, but the law can't stop my fanfic, erotic or otherwise. As I mentioned earlier, hitboxes are a bit off in OpenMW 0.49. The public release of OpenMW is version 0.48, but the Abyssinian Shore release requires that we use the development build of OpenMW 0.49, if we want to use OpenMW, that is. A change in the 0.49 release, which is apparently intentional, is that melee attacks calculate damage at the start of the animation, resulting in nonsense like this. That attack has a long animation, so you'd think you could dodge it, and in 0.48, you can dodge it. But they made this change in an effort to remove this exploit, I guess? The exploit of skillfully dodging attacks? I don't much care for it. It removes the tiny bit of dynamicness the combat has. I really hope they undo that change. Or at the very least, if it's possible, make it a toggle, a little button you can click in the launcher. What the hell is this? The sound mixing on it is weird. It's not loud, but it feels really close. A strident runner. Alright, here's the cave we're looking for. We're not Wile E. Coyote, so we can pass through this black hole painted on a cliffside with ease. Ooh, green tinted caves. I sense an Ayleid ruin nearby. Oh, neat. Cozy little grotto. Now that's an entrance. These wispy ghost dragon things, there's 2 of them, so we should probably lure one over to us, dodge its shock spells until it's out of magicka, then we can beat the snot out of it. It's a long process, but the more we punch, the more hand-to-hand XP we get. Once hand-to-hand hits around level 75, it really takes off. Chipmunk was born under the sign of the Lover, of course, which means we can paralyze enemies for 60 seconds once per day at the cost of 200 points of fatigue. But that cost is halved thanks to our Breton 50% magicka resistance. When an enemy is paralyzed, they take damage like they've been knocked down, meaning our punches do health damage rather than fatigue damage. It's not a huge deal, honestly, but Chipmunk loves his enemies, and he shows it with kisses. And this is our first Ayleid ruin. Gotta say, the modders did an amazing job. If it weren't for the UI and the hands, you'd think we were playing Oblivion. Well, the distinct lack of mid-2000s bloom is a giveaway, but you know what I mean. They captured the aesthetic perfectly. I wonder if they just used the textures from Oblivion. Look at me talking like I know how the hell modding works. I have a degree in computer science. You think I know how to program stuff? The fuck is that? Oh, I hate how that thing just crept up the stairs. Not 5 minutes into this place, and it's already a soaring improvement over Oblivion's Ayleid ruins. No zombies. Although, to be fair to Bethesda, they didn't have the hindsight of seeing what Oblivion did wrong when they were making Oblivion. A redeemed sentinel. I wonder what that means. And a redeemed keeper. Redeemed in what sense? The Ayleid practiced a good bit of necromancy. My first thought would be that these are criminals who were redeemed after being executed and resurrected in the forms of these constructs. Totally baseless assumption, but it sounds like something the Ayleid would do. After running around this place for a good 20 minutes, I wasn't able to find a damn thing relating to the phrase. Am I looking for some sort of tablet? An artifact? Remember where we fought those Welkin spirit dragon things? Yeah, there's a note on this pedestal. That's what we needed to read. Didn't have to explore the ruins at all, but I'm glad I did. It was cool. The note says we were too late. The artifact that awaited us here, Sinweaver, was snatched up by Urichalimo, the Modest. This development troubles Alsia because Urichalimo is the very same person she put her trust in after her mentor died, only for him to deceive her and run off with her money. An epiphany falls upon her. No one can lead her on her own path. It is she who must weave it, however uncertain it may be. She'll never find someone with all the answers, because only she can answer these questions. Understanding that she must now be self-reliant in her journey, she asks us to deal with Urichalimo before he can swindle anyone else. She suspects he's around Archad, and when we arrive in the little village, we find Urichalimo standing in the town square with a crowd of supplicants listening to his words. Talking to the townsfolk, it appears they've really taken a liking to Urichalimo. He speaks truth to the people, and he's already offered to give them more if they show him a bit of support. He told Stratia here that the river will run strong this season, so why bother going back to work? The harvest will be immaculate, but he can't scry more of the future on an empty stomach, so Stratia had better share that bread. And Baron? Well, Urichalimo let him know that the nobles in Anvil have been lying to him, getting rich at his expense. Generously, Urichalimo offered to work for Baron as an advisor, for a small fee, of course, to better see through the nobles' lies. They're a bit gullible. You know, the word gullible is actually written near my fatigue bar. Yeah, and don't come back. With a little convincing, Urichalimo saw the error of his ways, and he gave us the sword he stole from the Ayleid ruin, Sinweaver. Chipmunk knows all about weaving sin, but this sword ain't what's gonna do it. Damage fatigue, 10 points for 5 seconds, and fire damage, 10 points for 1 second. Not a bad sword, and it's pretty expensive. Might be worth selling if we find a rich enough vendor. As the most faithful and virtuous would tell you, true spiritual enlightenment isn't gained through prayer or meditation, but instead is obtained by getting a fellow holy man to kick the shit out of your enemies. This is it for Alsia. She's ready to perform her own works now. Before we leave, we ask her about the local priests, the other priests we can get more duties from. We can find runs towards time in the hostel of Saint Rosunius in Little Arenthia. Luaki is on the TEM Kintira's Shield, a ship docked at Fort Telodrach. Gerius Siralus is in the Temple of the West Wind in Sharach, Finally, there's Haela Isonia, who is somewhere between Brynna Cross and Gosha Inn, traveling with her companion. So we've got our list. Time to pay these priests a visit. Oh, we also talked to her about advancing in rank. Since the itinerant priests are non-hierarchical, there's no real rank system per se, but based on your works, you garner a bit of clout among the order. We've done enough work to earn the rank of Gyrovag. I don't know what it means either. It's a nondescript sandwich from Greece, and on the side it comes with indiscernible tzatziki sauce. The circus is in town, and they've got a ton of interesting stuff for sale. First, we'll bribe Nadia of Neris to get her disposition up, and then take a look at her stock. Not only does she have 10,000 gold to work with, but she's got a bunch of enchanted items with varying levels of usefulness. Are you looking for a staff that drains the target's speed, gives them a frost shield, and forces them to levitate really slowly for 20 seconds? Well, look no further. It does that. Or perhaps you want a gauntlet that both resists magicka and glows in the dark. Pretty cool, huh? We're gonna sell her Sinweaver and buy from her the Amulet of Peerless Insight. Constant effect, Fortify Intelligence, 30 points. Really powerful. We'll also buy the Spell Quell Robes. 100 points of spell absorption for 3 seconds. Could be useful. We walk away from those dealings with a clean 16k. Not bad. Alchemy is one of the itinerant priest's favorite skills, so we'll eventually have to get that up to level 90 if we want to reach the max rank in the order. This stockpile of gold will help with that. Bread is cheap, but 1,000 of anything ain't, unless it's grains of rice. Or barley. Unprepared grains they're cheap and they come in multitudes. So bread is cheap, but 1,000 of most things. This part of Anvil has a lot of shops we can buy ingredients from and sell excess potions to. So grinding alchemy will be simple. Runs towards time. The itinerant priest helping out at the hostel of St. Rosunius. After running through this maze of a building that would give Vivec City's temple canton a run for its money, we find the guy. And I don't want to alarm you, but Runs Towards Time is an Argonian. He tells us that the people living in Little Aranthia are impoverished, but the hostel here helps lessen that burden for many of the citizens. To support the financial burden, Runs Towards Time would like us to collect donations from nearby shop owners. He thinks 350 septims is a good goal. Not everyone is willing to donate, they have their own problems to deal with, and others can only give a couple dozen gold. As fun as it'd be to go around collecting scraps, we'll just cover the entire donation ourselves. 350 gold is chump change. Just because we're a monk doesn't mean we have to eschew worldly possessions. What other kinds of possessions are there but worldly possessions? Next, Runs Towards Time would like us to investigate a bluepox infection. It's a rare condition, but 5 laborers over in the shipworks contracted it recently. Quite odd. Runs gives us 5 cure disease potions and sends us off to heal them. But he would also like us to investigate a potential cause. All of the infected take the potion without argument, except this dickhead Khajiit. I have to raise his disposition before he'll let us heal him. Talk about a fantasy world. People refusing therapeutics? That's ridiculous. With everyone cured, we can ask around to learn that the workers found a strange corrosive slime within the ship. It was strong enough to eat through the hull, and the fumes it emitted made Hosni's eyes burn. This would explain the sudden emergence of the disease, Runs Towards Time says. It's not confirmation, but at least it's something. You might think we'd follow up on this, but we never actually do. Instead, Runs would like us to fetch some ingredients. Arderic Romaud is the only apothecary that sells Purserine blossoms. Runs had arranged a deal to receive regular shipments of the reagent so we can make restorative salves. The most recent shipment, however, hasn't arrived, and he'd like us to head over to Chirac and figure out what's with the delay. Arderic says his store was recently robbed by a band of goblins, but he gives us a refund for the shipment anyway, so I guess there's no real scam involved. He even tells us the guards tracked the goblins to Kingfisher Cave, and if we really need the Purserine, we're free to collect it and keep the refund. Such is the cost of doing business. Why he didn't bother telling Runs Towards Time about this is anyone's guess. Maybe he was hoping Runs would forget and he'd be able to keep the payment. A bit slimy. So slimy, we might catch bluepox. The Tribunal expansion might trigger something in you when you hear Morrowind goblins grunt, but fear not, these goblins aren't Planet Buster level threats. Do you like the new staff? It's pure Wenbone. What is Wenbone? You don't know what Wenbone is? Well, if you don't know, maybe it's not my place to tell you. Oh, it's a Bosmer-made weapon constructed from several different kinds of bone. Ugh. The little gobbos are pretty easy to handle, but the boss gobbo that throws fireballs is a bit tougher. Lots of fatigue, lots of health, lots of damage, but once we get his fatigue down to 0, he's little more than a target dummy. Here's the Purserine blossoms. 10 in this crate, and 10 in this one. Runs Towards Time is happy to have the shipment, and he even lets us keep the refund as payment. Next, he'd have us recruit Varila. Rather, re-recruit Varila. She was once an itinerant priest who hung up her traveling shoes I don't know what a wandering healer would have, and now serves as a priest at the Chapel of the Tranquil Sky in Anvil. She had left the order because she felt she wasn't really doing anything, just aimless wandering. But she'd consider joining back up if we accompany her to Kar Toronur Barrow and find a special runestone. Runestones? Burial caverns? What is this, Skyrim? If you needed more proof that these goblins aren't nearly as deadly as Mournholds, here you go. Ah, she hung up her traveling helm. I'm sure that's all she'll need for this adventure. Time to see what a Colovian tomb looks like. I don't know. It's a bit soul-stymy. Oh, okay. Already a bit different. Skeleton archer. Is that a Draugr? Whoa, what the hell is that? Minotaur? Mummy? Runs a little goofy. Strong though. Look at all the detail on this Mummy-Tar's texture. Man, the amount of work this team puts into their projects is astounding. I wish I were that motivated. Here's the Adamus runestone, but it's shattered and illegible. Not what Virila was looking for, unfortunately. However, this little excursion reinvigorated her adventurous spirit, and she's decided to rejoin the itinerant priests. News that runs towards time is happy to hear. He has no more duties for us, so grants us our final reward. The Amulet of Unfettered Movement, an on-use item that grants 30 points of feather, 50% paralysis resistance for 60 seconds, and 20 points of speed for 20 seconds. Seems pretty useful. I'll never use it. We also rank up in the order. Robe-bearer, Seeker, Disciple. The next itinerant on our itinerary is Luaki, a priest who's providing spiritual support to the Navy sailors on the TEM Kintira shield. I'm guessing TEM stands for the Emperor's Majesty. The electromagnetic Kintira's shield. The Navy doesn't pay Luaki for his charity, besides room and board, and his personal savings are running dry. Prayer materials do not come cheap. What materials do you need to pray? I don't know, but he needs money. Story is old as time. Priest needs money. He'd like us to develop a good reputation with the Temple of Dibella Aesthetica, and perhaps get them to offer up some of their wealth and connections to support Luaki's future endeavors. He suggests we start by speaking with Dalia Lasalian, a deputy of the current temple's primate. Dalia Lasalian is one of the church's ascetics, that is, a wet blanket. She quizzes us on what Dibella is the goddess of: ethereal beauty and aesthetic purity, or physical beauty and joy, or all of the above. Well, obviously Dibella possesses ethereal beauty, but mortals can never achieve such a standard, but we can approach it by elevating physical beauty. So all of the above. She doesn't like this answer because she assumes we're being impartial to save face, make no commitments one way or the other, align with neither of the two factions within the church. That way I don't make anybody mad. As such, we don't meet her spiritual standards, so she's got no works for us to help with. But she does know of others who need a hand. People she looks down on, I guess. Usas, the temple caretaker, Usas, the temple caretaker, needs help procuring coal for the furnace rooms. The furnaces are used to heat the sacred baths. The baths that, according to the temple, are sacred, hence the name. I guess hiring wizards to cast some fireballs is more expensive than burning coal. That's an interesting question. What are the thermodynamics of a wizard? This temple is amazing. Makes you wonder why Oblivion's temples are so dull. Usas hasn't received his shipment of coal from Fort Heath's mines, so he'd like us to swing by and grab the order. It's already been paid for, so all we need to do is show them the receipt. We visited Fort Heath earlier, but all we did was talk to a guy at the shrine. The mine is just outside the fort, in the side of the hill. Whoa, jeez. What are they using to mine this stuff? Tonal manipulation? Is this where the drummer went? We're looking for the site manager, Illyrios Katiosho. The soldiers say he's in the large stone building halfway down the pit. How long has this mine been in operation? These maniacs built an Imperial fort structure inside the mine. This is the kind of absurdity I'm looking for in my fantasy. It's not illogical, technically. It's certainly impractical, but the spectacle is more than worth it. Illyrios gives us the coal and tells us to inform Usas that the cost will be increasing next month. Something mining quotas. We bring the coal back to the temple, place it in the coal pile near the furnace, and return to Dalia. She may not care for us, but at least she pays us for our work. Professionalism is important, but she still has no works for us. Instead, she points us to the sacred workshops where Venus Arethan, a temple artist, could use a hand getting a hold of some imperial purple dye. There should be some available at the Conservatory of St. Leica just off the marina. You know, I always imagined Dibella as a redhead. Don't know why. Sakara has the dye, and she's willing to give it to us if We help her carry her art supplies to an inspiring spot just outside the city, overlooking the Nahreen River. An easy enough task. We meet her by the river, give her the supplies, wait a day for her to finish the painting, she's very fast, and then speak with her again. She doesn't give us the paint though. She'd like us to do one more thing. Bring the painting to the temple as an offering. Fine. Luckily for Sakara, Dahlia is mightily impressed by the painting. Many artists donate work to the temple like it's some kind of art gallery, but Sakara's work is quite exquisite. Dahlia even toys with the idea of offering Sakara a place in the sacred workshop. Sakara is ecstatic at the news, and is more than happy to finally give us that imperial purple dye. She also gives us a pink pearl she found in the river while she was painting. Okay. Venus takes the purple dye and gives us a bunch of pots of paint and brushes as a reward. Okay. Thanks, I guess. These seem useless. I feel like they might come up later though, so I'll hold on to them for now. Dahlia's got nothing left for us, so we head back to Luaki. Remember, he's the one who sent us to the temple in the first place. The ascetics aren't interested in helping Luaki, but there's the hedonists, who might be more sympathetic to his plight. He suggests we avoid Lessi Hikaria, the temple theurgist, and instead meet with Cassandra Varak, who runs the temple's auditorium. An auditorium run by a hedonist sounds like the perfect place for Chipmunk. She wasn't easy to find, but nothing worth it ever is. Cassandra is much more amicable than Dahlia, and has a task ready for us as soon as we arrive. A pair of Bosmer pilgrims are due to arrive shortly. Cassandra's seen these pilgrims before, and she thinks they'd be a perfect match. She wants us to help her arrange a meet-cute. I knew the hedonists had the right idea. She can handle their first meeting on her own. For their second, Cass would like to set up a meal, but she doesn't know what Bosmer delicacies would be. This falls upon us. Blood and flesh. You know that thing where they serve sushi atop a naked person, typically a naked woman? It's like that, but the sushi is the naked person, and they may or may not be dead. Asking around Little Arenthia, we learn a real Bosmer delicacy is Valenwood wine and Arenthian jerky. How romantic. Returning to Cassandra, we learn that she just learned that the two Bosmer in question already knew each other. During this pilgrimage, they both just so happened to arrive at the temple on the same day. So they both figured it was a sign that they should get together. Cassandra asks that we escort the two Bosmer, entrusting us with the key to the sacred baths. Unfortunately, once we bring the two to Lessi Hikaria, Chipmunk is turned away and not even allowed to watch. Poor Chipmunk. And that's all Cassandra has for us. Doesn't even acknowledge Luaki. He's certainly not pleased to hear it, but there's more pressing matters at hand. One of the Navy sailors found a strange paper floating in the sea. On it was something upsetting. The sailor handed it over to Luaki, and he understood exactly what it was. A drowner contract. During the Soul Rest Uprising, civil unrest and whatnot, unimportant, some old Nibonese sailor folklore began spreading among the South Navy. They were convinced that Molag Bal, Lord of the Deep Ocean, demanded sacrifices. Now you may find that a bit odd. Molag Bal, Lord of the Ocean? He's the king of rape. What is this? That makes no sense. Well, the details are a bit muddy, but most accounts agree that Molag Bal has a close relationship with the Dreg. On a different world, perhaps from an earlier Kalpa, the Dreg ruled over an oceanic world called Lig. I'm not setting up a Ligma Balls joke. It's believed the Dreg either worshipped Molag Bal, or Molag Bal was the chief of this watery plane. It could also be the pseudo-origin of the Ruddy Man, a crustacean-like outfit mortals can wear to become the Ruddy Man. It's a bit heady. Was the Ruddy Man from a previous Kalpa? Was he one of the demon children produced from the union of Molag Bal and Vivek's headless body? It's weird. Needless to say, of course the nightmarish depths of the ocean are Molag Bal's domain. Oppressive and terrifying. It works. I suggest doing your own reading on this chunk of lore because it's a bit messy, such is the nature of unreliable in-world narrators. Also, I'm pretty sure some of this information comes from unofficial lore via Michael Kirkbride, not from the games themselves. Believe what you want. It's all made up anyway. There's actually a former member of the cult that was performing some of these sacrifices right here in Anvil. Kalad, a midshipman for the West Navy, used to work on the trade ship Grindstone. The mystic Karana Quina convinced them that sacrifices would quell the storms. Gold, grain, meat, small animals. Nothing extreme, of course, just don't ask the small animals. It seemed to work. But one thing led to another, and, I mean, who hasn't thrown a couple dudes overboard to appease the king of rape? Kalad managed to convince Karana to let him leave the ship by telling her that he'd try to recruit members of the Navy into the cult. A lie, he assures us. Perhaps we ought to confront this so-called mystic. The ship is docked in the port quarter. Obviously, where the hell else would a ship be? Is that the cult ship? Or is that the cult ship? Pink boat? Boat made out of vertebra. Oh shit, this is just a Bosmer boat. Oh, it's made out of flesh. What elves are so unhinged? I love it. We have two options when dealing with Karana. We can either play along and pretend Kalad recruited us, or we can call her out on the sacrifices and put an end to it. If we join, she'll expect us to bring an initiation sacrifice, a destitute beggar in Little Arenthia. Now, Chipmunk ain't above committing some crime here and there, petty theft and whatnot, but this level of subterfuge is a bit too much for him. Chipmunk is chaotic neutral at worst. Instead, we call her out and she immediately attacks.
You've lost this round.
I hope Moligbal is happy with this final sacrifice, Karana. And he probably is. A note on her body mentions their next ritual will take place at the Scupper. Right. The arrangements have been made, and all they need is the sacrifice. We take out the remaining cultists on the boat and return to Luaki. He suspects there's more cultists at their makeshift ritual site, so he sends us out to finally put this cult to rest. This all feels very Fallout 4, Innsmouth, Mirelurks, a cult altar. Bahaba. There are a lot of corners and crevices, but after a bit of searching, we find the one and only cultist waiting here in the Scupper, and we staff bash him into the ground. I feel even in this alternate timeline Cyrodiil, the Empire would still frown upon vigilante justice. The Port Authority is going to be a bit perplexed when they notice one of the trade ships is full of dead people. As thanks, Luaki gives us the Wanderer's Robe and the Ring of Spiritual Wisdom. The robes have two constant effects, 5 points to Athletics and 10 points to Sanctuary. Sanctuary ain't bad considering how goofy the melee hitboxes are. The ring just fortifies willpower by 1 to 10 points for 5 seconds. Pointless. That's all Luaki has for us, and he's only able to promote us one more rank, to Mendicant. We need level 70 in one of the Order's favorite skills to advance further. I had been working on alchemy behind the scenes, so let's get that squared away before moving on to the next priest. Turio Tulanus sells an excellent selection of ingredients. Aloe vera pulp, Cairn bolete, and garlic mixed together to create a single potion that restores health and fatigue. It also provides some disease resistance, but that's not important. He's also got arrow moth wings and blue flax flowers, which mix to create Fortify attack potions. At level 90 alchemy, I'm getting 50 points of attack for 150 seconds. These aren't base game items, by the way. Even these are overpowered by Morrowind standards. Kinda silly. East of Brenna Cross, outside of Fort Swordmoth, we find Haela Isonian, the itinerant priest said to be traveling with her companion, but she's here by herself. After beginning their journey, Haela and her companion, Kuram, were attacked by several Bosmer necromancers. Haela was able to fight off the one attacking her, but the others were focused on Kuram. They knocked him out and had their crew of skeletons drag him away. Haela chased the necromancers all the way to this fort, but she's not prepared to take on the undead inside a cramped ruin, certainly not on her own. So, it falls on us. Skeletons, pretty standard for necromancers. They're always the skeletons of men in myrrh though, so boring. Oh shit! Argonian Skelly! It has a single hole behind its orbit, implying Argonians are not diapsids, which are reptiles with two skull fenestra behind their orbits. Euryapsids were aquatic reptiles with a single hole on the upper part of their skull. Synapsids have a single hole on the bottom portion of their skull. Mammals descend from synapsids, although technically mammals still are synapsids. And this means even humans have temporal fenestrae. It's a bit angled though, so it's not super obvious. Argonians seem to have a single giant hole. Perhaps they were diapsids, aquatic reptiles, and when the Hist mutated them, the holes merged into a single large hole. Or, this is a fan-made model in a mod for a fantasy game, and likely no one but myself put even a fraction as much thought into this. Anyway, Morrowind. Those skeletons were a pain us in the anus, but we fought them off. This room is torn apart, a total mess, but there's a tidy bookcase over here. Suspicious. Ah, foolish necromancers. They shouldn't have labeled this book, Strange Book. What is in the water on the Gold Coast? Is everybody moles? That's one necromancer. Ooh, there's a minotaur in there. Let's lure the other necromancer out before the minotaur notices us. Second necromancer down, and he's got a shackle key. There's a third, but the minotaur doesn't seem to care about us. Third one's dead. Wait, this is Kuram? Haela's traveling with a minotaur? Cool. Seems he can't speak, but he understands that we're a friend. Unlocking someone's shackles will do that. We lead Kuram out of the fort and reunite him with Haela. She's grateful, rewards us with some potions, and offers us more works to do. Another pilgrim at Goldshire Inn by the name of Parvo Hersus seemed down on his luck when Haela and Kuram left. He could use some help. Parvo had a run-in with a group of bandits as he was returning from a pilgrimage to the Way Shrine of Akatosh. They took just about everything from him, but what he cares most about is his family's lucky sapphire amulet. Can't be that lucky. The bandits' hideout is in Blackfish Cave near the big Ayleid ruin Garlis Agia. This really is Cyrodiil. The guy stopped to talk to me while I was in midair. You're not worthy to wear this hat. But you do have matching Colovian fur boots. I want them. After everything we've been dealing with, bandits are a little more than an inconvenience. Is this guy trying to kill me with a backwards fishing pole? That is a comically large hammer. You got Elden Ring in my Morrowind. This must be the leader of the bandits. She has a room with her own bed. Well, I guess the amulet is lucky, technically. As a reward, he gives us the Shoes of Humble Burden Bearing, which fortify our fatigue by 30 points for 30 seconds, and grant 40 points of feather for 120 seconds. Neat. I'm sure I'll use them a bunch. Haela had said she and Kuram would be traveling along the Gold Road toward Anvil, but it seems she's hit a snag just north of the city because we find Kuram standing outside the ruins of Lindasel, and he's a bit panicked. We ask him where Haela is, and he signs something esoteric about the sky, but it seems Haela went into the ruins and has been in there for some time. Don't worry, Kuram. We'll figure out what's going on. Land drakes. Land sea snakes. We enter the ruins, fight off a couple of these redeemed creatures that Haela somehow avoided, and continue further down the corridors, careful not to miss— whoa! Rainbow Knight. Is this the future liberals want? What actually is this? An Auroran. Oh, a Meridian Dremora. Neat. Lots of neat stuff in this mod. Oh, hey Haela, you're looking well. She doesn't seem to realize how panicked Kuram is. She's more concerned with getting a Varla stone from this ruin in order to bring to the temple of Debella Aesthetica. She says she lost track of time. Well, the sooner we get her that stone, the sooner she can get out of here and calm Kuram down. Poor thing is worried sick. The stone is beyond, or within, the flooded section of the ruin. Fortunately, I noticed an enchanter back in town was selling water-breathing amulets, so I picked one up just for an occasion such as this. This room looks pretty puzzling. 2 swirly gems on the floor, 1 swirly gem on the ceiling, and if you push this button, the gems turn off. What does it mean? I don't know, because you need to push this button to make the wall drop, revealing a secret passageway. I don't know what those crystal gems did. I don't know what they were there for. In the hidden chamber, there's a bunch of ominous floating chairs surrounding a lotus-like centerpiece, and there's a single golden saint right gauntlet on a pedestal. Strange. There's a button under the lotus, and by pushing it, the lotus rises, revealing the Varla stone of Plicate Mending.
Plicate.
Good, I said it right. Picking up the stone pushes a surge of energy across our body, much as you would expect from an ancient magical crystal, and it forces us to become aware of all of our body's flaws in excruciating detail. So, a fluorescent light. While carrying this thing, our hand-to-hand is reduced by 5 points, but our restoration and armorer are increased by 5 points each. I wonder if there are more of these scattered about. In exchange for the stone, Haela gives us the Ring of Charming Insinuations, a souvenir she bought in Cyrodiil City. I guess they don't want to call it the Imperial City. She also advances us to the rank of Elder, then Marabout. What is a Marabout? A Muslim holy man or hermit, especially in North Africa. Alright. Learn something new. That ring grants 15 points of personality, by the way. Constant effect. I've got nothing better, so we'll wear it. Haela tells us to meet her back in Anvil. She'll have more works for us there. Seems they made it back before us. What an inconspicuous pair. She donated the Varla stone to the temple, but they didn't seem appreciative, and they made the pair leave. I can't imagine why. The hedonist should love Kuram. Look how horny he is. The two are looking for a more permanent place to stay, so she asks us to poke around the smaller temples and see if they'd accept their service. Why the hell can't she do it? At the Chapel of the Tranquil Sky, Jabethius Loris says he's unable to house any new members. It's a small chapel, and it's already straining as is, even with Varilla having left. Haela would be a tight fit, but a Minotaur? Can't be done. Instead, we go to Alva Egotia at the Chapel of Solemn Echoes, and her answer is much the same, just a different flavor. This chapel is a place of solace for those stuck in their darkest moments, a place of mourning. A Minotaur would be jarring. She suggests we try the Temple of First Breath. Citosaurus isn't just willing to accept Haela and Kuram, but is excited to take them in. It would be sacrilege, he says, to refuse an offer from a descendant of Morahouse himself. the Minotaur. With her travels now coming to an end, Haela gives us her walking stick. A simple wooden staff with a powerful enchantment. 3 constant effects. 20 points to speed, 20 points to acrobatics, and water breathing. The last effect seems useless, but we'll be glad we had it soon enough. The final itinerant we'll be helping is in Karach on the island of Stirk, out in the Abyssinian Sea. I swear I said Abyssinian differently every time I said it, I don't care. Gerius Siralus isn't much of a wandering holy man. He's been staying at the Chapel of the West Wind for quite some time now. He suspects Hackett, a warrior monk of this chapel, is a bit tired of him staying there. If he was as spry as he once was, I'm sure he'd still be out adventuring. Instead, he provides his services to this chapel, even though he hasn't joined the chapel. He's still an itinerant priest, even though he's not out and about wandering. I guess there's some nuance to it. He says there is. He says Hackett doesn't understand that nuance. Whatever. He tells us to talk to Hackett about something she needs done. Centauril Osi is a fisherman who lives out on an island east of Stirk, and every few weeks he would come to Chirac for supplies, but he hasn't visited lately, and Hackett feels it's the duty of her cult to make sure he's alright. I feel like there should be a boat to the island, but I couldn't find one. We're swimming. Sea land dregs! What the heck is this? Oh, what the hell is that? Mermaid? Oh god, I hate it. Good. Oh, a lamia. Very different than Iso's lamia. Iso's lamia are more like Naga, but Iso's Naga are a type of Argonian. Santoral is a bit frazzled. There's a sturgeon out in the water that's got him trapped on this island. It's not the lightning sirens or the crabmen, it's the fish. He needs the fish dead, otherwise he can't get to shore for supplies like fresh water. I feel like he made a couple mistakes when settling this island, but can you desalinate water by boiling it and collecting the water vapor? Or was that a recent discovery? It seems really foolish to live on an island with no access to fresh water. You know, I'm wondering, how do people who live on small island nations get fresh water? Like Malta? Wells? Kill the fish, no problem. With the sturgeon dead, Santoral thanks us with his catch of the day, and we head back to Chirac to let Hackett know the old man is safe and sound. Next, Gerius asks that we head over to the nearby sailor's home. It's a place that provides retired sailors somewhere to spend their twilight years in peace. A noble cause. And Gerius would like us to see if they need help with anything. You know, I love it if for once, when we're sent to see if someone needs help, they just tell us no, and that's the end of the quest. It's just like, yeah, no, we're good. But this is a video game, so of course there's work to be done. Ovis Jasaris at the sailor's home would like us to collect a donation. Captains in the region typically tithe a bit of their income on charitable endeavors. So Ovis would like us to speak with Yuri the Red and see if we can't get 1,500 septims from her. We could donate the septims ourselves, but that's too simple. We find Yuri in the Seastone house between Anvil's Marina and the port quarter, and she doesn't seem too excited about making this donation, unless we do something for her first, of course. One of her former crew members, Idvir, is spending her retirement drowning her memories at the All Flags Inn. Yuri would like us to bring her to the sailor's home. Only then will she offer up a donation. Escorting Idvir is simple enough. Talk to her, teleport to Chirac with a guild guide, and take a walk around the block. Ovis would have preferred that we run this arrangement by him first, but what's done is done. Yuri gives us the 1,500 septims, and Ovis is happy to have it. He rewards us with a blessing. 10% reflect for 10 minutes. Next, Gerius points us to the head priest of the chapel, Tynal Valelian. One of his cult's unique duties is the collecting of divine favors. Sometimes these favors manifest as physical objects, and by collecting them, the chapel can offer their presence to everyone, not just to those who are lucky enough to find them. Tylenol would like us to speak with Sina at the White Scarab Company lodgings in Anvil. She's apparently witnessed something interesting out at sea. Make sure you go to the lodgings and not the company hall. I spent a good 10 minutes wandering around the wrong building. She says she saw a shipwreck. Oh geez, why did I write this like that? She says she saw a shipwreck. She says she saw a shipwreck where she shoaled seashells at the seashore. Wow. You know what's an odd tongue twister that doesn't feel like it would be a tongue twister? Fresh white rice. Try to say fresh white rice. There you go. So yeah, shipwreck. Not odd on its own. Ships sink all the time. But this one she saw was old. Real old. It's north of Stirk, right next to, quote-unquote, that dreg monstrosity. Oh, what does that mean? The staff with water breathing will prevent us from drowning, but these electric fish ladies are making sure we don't live long enough for that to be an issue. Mages are hard to fight when you can't easily maneuver around their attacks. I could try kiting them, I guess. It's tough because the Lamia don't have a collapsed animation, so it's not easy to tell when they're incapacitated. More importantly, I can't tell when they stand back up, ready to zap me. Ah, I've attracted crustaceans. And another. Oh shit, that one has a spear. Moloch Ball, spears and whatnot. It's true. Muatra, or something. And that's the last magical mermaid. I feel like shock magic is a bad idea for ocean dwellers, but hey, it killed me more than once, so they must be onto something. This here must be the shipwreck sign I was talking about, but I'm not finding anything terribly interesting. Nothing super unique, at least. Maybe the Dreg took it to their reef? The enemy variety in these expanded Tamriel projects is amazing. A Dreg Man-O-War. They did it. That is the perfect name for this monster. I streamed some Tamriel rebuild content a few months back, and you can watch the VODs on my VOD channel if you're interested, or you can follow me on Twitch. I stream on Wednesdays and Fridays. I remember spending an unreasonable amount of time passing from sphincter to sphincter in this Dreg coral reef. I kinda don't want to explore this one, so maybe we should check that boat again. What's this? A locked chest that I missed the first time around. Nemon's Memory Stone. Now that looks unique and important. Our journal has been updated. Excellent. After all that, Tynel doesn't even give us a reward. I'm an adventurer first, itinerant priest second, dick. Gerius has one last task for us. The last task of the itinerant priests. When he was young, he accidentally knocked over a shrine and broke it. Afraid that he'd be expelled from the order, he lied and said it was stolen, instead hiding it in a cave outside of Hal Sadek. The people of the village found that shrine, and they interpreted it as a sign from the divines. So now, they worship it. Gerius would have us travel to the shrine and relight its candles on his behalf. Nothing says, "Forgive me, divines," like sending someone else on a pilgrimage. The cave he hid the shrine in is behind a waterfall along the Nahreen River. Silly Gerius. This is a video game. The last place you want to hide something is behind a waterfall. The broken shrine. We light the candles. The shrine speaks to us. Dibella, is that you? This pilgrimage is worthy of a blessing. You honor me, Passion Dancer. Oh. It's just a lady. She was not there when we came in. So, she's Dibella in my heart. If John Hawker is Zenithar, then Lily is Dibella. Gerius, I've absolved you of this lifelong regret. I hope you find solace in knowing I lit a couple candles in a poorly ventilated cave. No reward? Is that it? Well, at least we've reached the final rank of the order, Wayfarer. I guess the true reward was the spiritual enlightenment we acquired on the way. Wow, this chapel is beautiful.